Many principles that our Western civilization is based on comes from the Roman era and also before that the Greek era. And of the most famous of all the Greek city-states is Sparta and the Spartans. Listen to this little clip about how they lived, how they raised their children, how they behaved. They probably epitomize, what would you say, discipline, but also learning in, if you look at the Greeks as well. When you combine learning and discipline and hard work, great things can happen. Obviously, you got to work hard, but you can't work stupid. You got to work hard and intelligently. So this is a fascinating story and a historic account about one of the most remarkable civilizations that ever lived. One other thing why I combine the woman soldier with a man soldier here, male soldier, is because their women were also known as very disciplined and very tenacious. A lot of the virtues the men held to, the women also held to.
In 490 BC, the Persians under the banner of King Darius had invaded Greece, but were defeated at the Battle of Marathon by the Athenians. However, the Persians were not deterred and sought to expand their empire by conquering Greece once and for all. An Athenian politician and general Themistocles proposed that the allied Greeks block the advance of the Persian army at the pass of Thermopylae in order to give time for the rest of the Greek states to build their defenses and mobilize their armies. Consequently, King Leonidas of Sparta was chosen to command a Greek force of approximately 7,000 men to march north to block the pass of Thermopylae. In this army were the great 300 Spartan warriors trained like no other men.
Now you know who you're fighting.
Boys born in Sparta were trained from the age of 7 to become perfect fighters, and their training was rigorous and demanding. The boys were taken away from their families and brought to a military camp, where they were taught how to fight, survive in harsh conditions, and endure pain. The Spartan warriors were known for their physical strength and endurance. They were required to train for hours every day and were subjected to a strict diet and discipline. They were not allowed to eat fancy food or wear fancy clothes, and they were required to sleep on hard beds. This was done to toughen them up and make them immune to pain and suffering. Persian army, on the other hand, was massive, estimated to be between 150,000 to 300,000 soldiers. The Greeks knew they were outnumbered and outmatched by the Persians, so they decided to make a stand at the narrow pass of Thermopylae, where their small numbers would be less of a disadvantage. They dug a trench across the pass and built a wall of stones and wooden stakes, which made it difficult for the Persian cavalry to attack. According to historians, Leonidas knew he was marching to certain death, which is why he only took warriors with living sons in his army. Xerxes sent an ambassador with the message to Leonidas saying, "Hand over your arms," to which Leonidas famously replied, "Come and take them." After the message exchange, war was inevitable. Xerxes ordered 5,000 archers to shoot a barrage of arrows, but they were ineffective. They shot from at least 100 yards away, but the Greeks' wooden shields and bronze helmets deflected the arrows. After that, Xerxes dispatched an army of 10,000 Medes to capture the defenders and bring them before him. The Greeks, however, battled in front of the Phocian Wall, in the narrowest portion of the pass, where they could utilize the fewest warriors. A Phocian wall was a battle strategy in which the troops built a wall of overlapping shields, with stacked spear points sticking out from the edges of the shields, which proved to be extremely effective as it spanned the entire width of the pass. The Greeks proved to be superior in size, courage, and strength. The weaker shields and shorter spears and swords of the Persians prevented them from effectively engaging the Greek warriors. Leonidas and his 300 Spartans were positioned in the front line, where they would bear the brunt of the Persian attack. He rotated his men back and forth to the front of the shield wall to prevent his soldiers from fatigue. The Greeks were able to kill so many of the Persian soldiers that Xerxes is said to have stood up 3 times from the seat at which he was watching the battle from. The first wave of Xerxes' soldiers was cut to ribbons, with only 2 or 3 Spartans killed in return. Xerxes then threw his best troops into a second assault the same day, the Immortals, an elite corps of 10,000 men. However, the Immortals fared no better than the Medes and failed to make any headway against the Greeks. The Spartans reportedly used a tactic of feigning retreat and then turning and killing the enemy troops when they ran after them. On the second day of the battle, Xerxes again sent in the infantry to attack the pass, supposing that their enemies, being so few, were now disabled by wounds and could no longer resist. However, the Persians found no success. The Persian king kept sending wave after wave of 10,000 men, only to return defeated or killed. Xerxes at last stopped the assault and withdrew to his camp, totally speechless. Later that day, however, as the Persian king was pondering what to do next, he received a windfall. A man named Ephialtes came to him, who was a local resident of Trachis, a small town near Thermopylae. He was a guide who knew the area very well, and he offered his services to the Persians. He vowed to show the Persians a mountain path that led behind the Greek position that could be used to outflank the Greeks and attack them from the rear. Ephialtes had reportedly been promised a reward by the Persians for his services, and he had a personal vendetta against the Greeks, as his father had been exiled from his hometown due to political differences. The betrayal of Ephialtes was a significant turning point in the Battle of Thermopylae. The Greeks had been able to hold off the Persians for 2 days, but with their position now compromised, defeat was inevitable. The Persian army marched to attack the Greeks through the mountain pass. Leonidas learned about this from his spies and called a war of council at the dawn of the 3rd day of battle. Upon discovering that his army had been encircled, Leonidas told his allies that they could leave if they wanted to. While many of the Greeks took the offer and fled, around 2,000 soldiers stayed behind to fight and die. Among them were his loyal 300 Spartan soldiers committed to sacrifice their lives for Sparta. One commonly accepted theory is that Leonidas chose to form a rear guard so that the other Greek contingents could get away. If all the troops had retreated, the open ground beyond the pass would have allowed the Persian cavalry to run the Greeks down. On the other hand, if they had all remained at the pass, they would have been encircled and would eventually have all been killed. By covering the retreat and continuing to block the pass, Leonidas was able to save more than 3,000 men, who would be able to fight against the Persians again. Although the Greeks were defeated at Thermopylae, the battle had a significant impact on the Greco-Persian wars. The Spartan king Leonidas was able to delay the Persian advance by several days, which gave the rest of the Greek army time to prepare their defenses. The Greeks were eventually able to defeat the Persians in a naval battle at Salamis and in a land battle at Plataea, which effectively ended the Persian invasion of Greece. The Battle of Thermopylae has become a symbol of heroic resistance against overwhelming odds, and it has inspired countless works of art, literature, and film. The story of Leonidas and his 300 Spartan warriors has become legendary, and it continues to captivate people around the world.